I think we need some space. My name is Jason Adler. I am 32 years old and I work as a project manager for North Peak Engineering in Denver, Colorado. When Emily spoke those words across our kitchen table that Tuesday morning, something cold settled in my chest. Not heartbreak, something sharper. We had been engaged for 8 months. The wedding was scheduled for October 15th, just 12 weeks away. Emily had spent the previous weekend picking out centerpieces and arguing with the florist about white roses versus cream. She had called me 3 times at work to discuss napkin colors. Now she needed space. How much space? I asked. She twisted her engagement ring. A few weeks, maybe a month, I just need to think. I watched her pack a suitcase that evening. She folded her clothes with the same careful precision she used for everything else. Emily was a marketing coordinator at Ravens Park Ventures, organized to a fault, never spontaneous. The request for space felt calculated. Where will you stay? I asked. My sister's place. Katie lived in Boulder, 40 minutes north. Emily had always been close to her. I helped her carry the suitcase to her car, a silver Honda Civic she had owned since college. She kissed my cheek before getting in. This is not about us ending, she said. I just need clarity. I stood in our driveway and watched her taillights disappear around the corner. The house felt different when I walked back inside. Quieter. I sat at the kitchen table where she had delivered her news and tried to make sense of it. Emily was not the type to have doubts. She planned everything months in advance. She had already booked our honeymoon flight to Greece. 3 days passed without contact. No calls, no texts. I sent her one message asking if she was okay. She responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Nothing else. On Friday, I ran into her friend Jessica at the grocery store. Jessica worked with Emily at Ravens Park Ventures. She seemed surprised to see me. How are you holding up? She asked. Fine. Why? Jessica looked uncomfortable. Emily mentioned you two were taking time apart. She told people at work? Just a few of us. She seemed really stressed about it. I bought my groceries and drove home. Emily had announced our break to her co-workers before the week was even over. That felt like more than needing clarity. Emily and I had met 3 years earlier at a coffee shop near downtown Denver. She was reading a book about digital marketing strategies. I was reviewing blueprints for a bridge project. She noticed my drawings and asked if I was an architect. I told her I was an engineer. She smiled and said she always mixed up the two. Our relationship developed slowly. Emily was cautious with trust, careful with her heart. She had been hurt before by a boyfriend named Brian who had cheated on her during college. Brian was her first serious relationship, the one that taught her that people could lie while looking you in the eye. She mentioned him occasionally, usually when explaining why she preferred honesty over surprise. I appreciated her directness. Emily never played games or sent mixed signals. When she was ready to move in together, she said so. When she wanted to get engaged, she brought it up during dinner at our favorite restaurant. I proposed 2 weeks later with a ring I had been carrying in my jacket pocket for a month. We bought a house in Lakewood, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a backyard and a 2-car garage. Emily turned the spare bedroom into her office. She worked from home twice a week and used the space to manage her social media campaigns and client presentations. I handled the mortgage payments. She managed the utilities and groceries. We split everything else down the middle. Emily was methodical about wedding planning. She created spreadsheets for vendors, guest lists, and budgets. She scheduled tastings and venue tours with military precision. I mostly followed her lead. She had strong opinions about flowers and music. I cared more about the food and the bar. Her family liked me. Her parents, Robert and Susan, lived in Fort Collins and visited every few months. Robert worked in insurance. Susan taught elementary school. They were practical people who appreciated that I had a steady job and treated their daughter well. Emily's sister Katie was more skeptical, but she warmed up after I helped her move apartments last spring. My own parents had died in a car accident when I was 24. Emily never met them, but she understood that their absence made our wedding more complicated for me. She offered to keep the ceremony small. I told her to invite whoever she wanted. Her happiness mattered more than my comfort. The week before Emily asked for space, she had been unusually quiet. She came home from work and went straight to her office. She skipped our usual Wednesday night dinner routine and ordered takeout instead. When I asked if something was bothering her, she said she was just tired from a difficult client. I believed her then. The realization came through social media, of all places. Marcus, a mutual friend from college, sent me a private message on a Thursday afternoon 2 weeks into Emily's break. The message contained 3 photos with a simple caption. "Thought you should see this." The first photo showed Emily at a restaurant I did not recognize. She was sitting across from a man with dark hair and a familiar smile. Brian, her college ex-boyfriend, the one who had cheated on her, the one she used as a cautionary tale about trust. The second photo showed them walking together on what looked like a hiking trail. Emily was wearing the blue jacket I had bought her for Christmas. Brian had his arm around her shoulders. The third photo was taken at a distance, but the subjects were clear. Emily and Brian kissing outside what appeared to be a cabin. Trees surrounded them. Mountains rose in the background. The timestamp on the photo showed it was taken 3 days earlier. Marcus had included a note. "My cousin saw them at the Pine Creek Lodge near Vail. She recognized Emily from your engagement party. I am sorry, man." I stared at the photos for a long time. The restaurant, the hike, the cabin. Emily had not been at her sister's place thinking about our relationship. She had been with Brian, rekindling something I thought was dead and buried. I did not call her. I did not send angry texts or demand explanations. Instead, I sat in my kitchen and tried to understand the timeline. Emily had asked for space on a Tuesday. By Friday, she was having dinner with Brian. By the following week, they were hiking together. By Tuesday, they were kissing at a mountain cabin. This was not spontaneous. You do not accidentally run into your college ex-boyfriend and end up at a romantic lodge within 10 days. Emily had planned this. The request for space was not about clarity. It was about permission. I walked to the spare bedroom she used as her office. Her desk was clean, but she had left some papers in the drawer. Wedding contracts, vendor deposits, guest list drafts. Everything was organized in labeled folders, ready to resume when she returned from her break. Emily expected to come back and continue planning our wedding as if nothing had happened. She would explain away the photos if I confronted her. She would say Brian was just a friend, that they were catching up, that the kiss was a mistake. She would ask me to trust her, but I had seen enough. I closed the drawer and walked back to the kitchen. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Missing you. Hope you are doing okay." I did not respond. Emily returned on a Sunday afternoon 3 weeks after she had left. She knocked on the front door instead of using her key, as if she were a guest. When I opened it, she smiled and stepped inside carrying a small overnight bag. "I miss this place," she said, looking around our living room. "I missed you." She had gotten her hair cut shorter. She was wearing a new sweater I had never seen, cream-colored cashmere that looked expensive. She seemed relaxed, refreshed, like someone returning from a vacation. "How was your time away?" I asked. "Good. Really good. I feel like I have clarity now." She set her bag down and moved closer to me. "I know what I want, Jason. I want us. I want our wedding. I want our life together." I nodded and smiled. "I am glad you figured things out." Emily hugged me. She smelled different, like a perfume I did not recognize. When she pulled back, she was beaming. "I have so many ideas for the reception. Katie and I talked through some options while I was staying with her. I think we should change the centerpieces. The white roses were too predictable." Over the next few days, Emily threw herself back into wedding planning with renewed energy. She scheduled appointments with the photographer to discuss new poses. She called the caterer to modify the menu. She spent hours on her laptop researching honeymoon activities in Santorini. I watched her work and said nothing about the photos Marcus had sent me. I did not ask about Brian or the cabin or the hiking trail. Instead, I played the role of the supportive fiancé. I agreed with her suggestions. I attended vendor meetings. I wrote checks for deposits. "You seem quiet," Emily said one evening as we reviewed seating charts. "Is everything okay?" Just tired from work, I told her. The Henderson Bridge project is behind schedule. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. After the wedding, things will be less stressful. We can focus on us. Emily's behavior was flawless. She cooked my favorite meals. She planned date nights. She talked excitedly about our future together. If I had not seen the photos, I would have believed her transformation was genuine. But I had seen them. 2 weeks after her return, I decided to test her honesty. I ran into Marcus downtown yesterday, I said over breakfast. He mentioned seeing you while you were on your break. Emily paused with her coffee cup halfway to her lips. Marcus? Where did he see me? He did not say exactly, just mentioned running into you somewhere. She set the cup down carefully. That is strange. I do not remember seeing Marcus anywhere. Maybe he is thinking of someone else. Maybe. Emily continued eating her cereal as if the conversation had never happened. But I noticed she checked her phone more frequently for the rest of the morning. She also spent an hour in her office with the door closed, making what sounded like a quiet phone call. That afternoon, I received a friend request on social media from Brian Walsh. His profile showed he lived in Boulder now, working as a sales manager for an outdoor equipment company. His recent photos included several hiking trips around Colorado. None showed Emily, but the locations matched what I had seen in Marcus's pictures. I accepted the friend request. Within an hour, Brian had sent me a message. Hey Jason, Emily mentioned you two are engaged. Congratulations. I hope we can all be friends. No hard feelings about the past. Emily had told Brian about our engagement. She had also apparently told him that I knew about their recent contact. Brian was reaching out to gauge my reaction, to see if Emily had been honest with me about their reunion. I replied, Thanks. Emily is lucky to have supportive friends like you. Brian never responded. The full scope of Emily's deception revealed itself gradually over the following weeks. I started paying attention to details I had previously ignored. Emily's new clothes, her changed hair, her unfamiliar perfume. She had not acquired these things while staying with her sister Katie. She had bought them for someone else. For Brian. I also noticed her phone habits. Emily had always been casual about her device, leaving it on counters and tables without concern. Now she kept it with her constantly. She took it to the bathroom. She slept with it on her nightstand, screen down. When it buzzed with notifications, she would check it immediately, and then delete whatever she had read. One evening, while Emily was in the shower, her phone rang on the kitchen counter. The caller ID showed B. Walsh. I did not answer, but I memorized the number. The next day, I called North Peak Engineering's Human Resources Department and took 3 personal days. I told my supervisor I needed to handle some wedding-related business, which was not entirely a lie. I drove to Boulder. Brian Walsh worked at Summit Gear, an outdoor equipment store near the University of Colorado campus. I parked across the street and waited until I saw him leave for lunch. He was tall, athletic, with the confident posture of someone who spent his weekends rock climbing and mountain biking. I could see why Emily had been attracted to him in college. I followed him to a sandwich shop called Mountain High Deli. He ordered a turkey club and sat alone at a corner table, scrolling through his phone. I ordered coffee and took a seat where I could observe him without being noticed. Brian's phone buzzed constantly. Each time he would smile before reading the message. At one point he typed a long response, pausing frequently as if choosing his words carefully. When he finished, he laughed quietly to himself. I recognized the behavior. Brian was texting with someone he cared about, someone who made him happy, someone who was probably at work in Denver, unable to talk freely but eager to maintain contact. After Brian returned to Summit Gear, I drove to Katie's apartment complex in North Boulder. Emily's sister lived in a modern building with covered parking and a pool. I walked around the complex for 30 minutes looking for Emily's Honda Civic. I found it in a visitor space near the building's entrance. Except Emily was not staying with Katie. I knew this because I had called Katie's office that morning, pretending to be a delivery driver. Katie worked as a physical therapist at Boulder Community Health. The receptionist confirmed she was seeing patients all week and had no scheduled time off. If Emily was really staying with her sister, Katie would have arranged some time to help her through a relationship crisis. Sisters do not ignore each other during emergencies. Emily's car was parked at Katie's building, but Emily was not living there. She was using the apartment complex as a staging area, a place to park her car while she spent her days and nights elsewhere, with Brian. I sat in my truck and tried to calculate how long this had been planned. Emily's request for space had not been impulsive. She had reconnected with Brian weeks or months earlier. They had arranged to meet, to test whether their old relationship could be revived. Emily had asked for a break not because she was confused about our future, but because she wanted to explore an alternative. She was keeping me as a backup plan. I returned to Denver and began documenting everything. Emily's changed behavior, her new clothes, her secretive phone calls, Brian's social media activity, his work schedule, his attempts to contact me, the timeline of her break request, the photos Marcus had sent, and the evidence that she was not actually staying with Katie. I also started making financial preparations. Our wedding was expensive. We had deposits with 12 different vendors, totaling nearly $15,000. The reception venue required final payment 30 days before the event. The photographer wanted her fee 2 weeks in advance. Emily had been managing most of these arrangements, but the money was coming from our joint savings account. I opened a new checking account at a different bank and began transferring funds. Not theft, just protection. If Emily was planning to leave me for Brian, I wanted to limit the financial damage. I also contacted a lawyer. Daniel Morrison worked for a small firm that specialized in family law. He had handled a coworker's divorce 2 years earlier and came highly recommended for his discretion and thoroughness. "You are not married yet," Daniel explained during our consultation. "That simplifies things legally, but complicates them emotionally. Do you want to confront her, or do you want to gather more evidence first?" "More evidence," I said. "I want to be sure." Daniel referred me to a private investigator named Patricia Reynolds. Patricia was a former police detective who now specialized in infidelity cases. She was professional, methodical, and expensive. "Most people think they want proof," Patricia told me during our first meeting. "But what they really want is closure. Proof just makes the closure more painful." "I want proof." Patricia's investigation lasted 1 week. She followed Emily during her supposed work-from-home days and documented where she actually went. She photographed Emily and Brian together at restaurants, parks, and shopping centers around Boulder. She tracked them to the Pine Creek Lodge, the same cabin Marcus's cousin had spotted them at weeks earlier. The most damaging evidence was a video Patricia captured outside Brian's apartment on a Thursday evening. Emily arriving with an overnight bag. Emily kissing Brian in the parking lot. Emily staying until the following morning. "Your fiancée has been living a double life," Patricia said when she presented her report. "She splits her time between her sister's apartment complex, where she parks her car, and her ex-boyfriend's place, where she actually sleeps. She has been doing this for almost the entire duration of your break." The report included receipts Brian had paid for during their time together: restaurants, hotels, gas stations, a jewelry store in Vail where he had purchased something for $347. Emily was not wearing any new jewelry, which meant she was hiding it from me. Patricia also discovered that Brian had quit his job at Summit Gear the previous week. He was planning to relocate to Denver, where Emily had apparently helped him secure interviews with 3 different companies. "They are planning a future together," Patricia said. "The question is whether they intend to wait until after your wedding to make it official." I paid Patricia's fee and thanked her for her thoroughness. That evening, Emily came home excited about a new detail she had arranged for our reception. "I booked a string quartet for the cocktail hour," she announced. "They specialize in modern arrangements of classic songs. It will be perfect." I smiled and told her it sounded wonderful. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday evening, October 14th, at Ravensbrook Studios, a private event space in downtown Denver. Emily had invited 43 people, both sets of parents, her sister Katie, my closest friends, key family members, and several wedding party members. I had a different plan. 2 days before the dinner, I contacted everyone on the guest list and explained there had been a change of venue. "Family emergency," I said. We were moving the event to the community room at Sundale Financial, where my friend Lucas worked as a branch manager. More intimate setting, I explained. Emily was handling vendor coordination and would meet everyone there. Emily knew nothing about the change. Friday evening, I arrived at Sundale Financial 30 minutes early. Lucas had helped me set up a projector and screen. I had prepared a short presentation, 15 minutes of carefully edited footage Patricia Reynolds had captured during her investigation. The guests arrived confused, but willing to adapt. Emily's parents, Robert and Susan. Katie, looking skeptical as always. My college friends Marcus, Tyler, and Kevin. Emily's co-workers from Ravenspark Ventures. Everyone Emily cared about gathered in one room. Emily arrived 20 minutes late, flustered and apologetic. I went to Ravensbrook Studios first, she said, looking around the unfamiliar room. No one told me we had changed venues. I handled the communications, I said. I wanted tonight to be special. Emily smiled and hugged me. She was wearing the blue dress we had picked out together for the rehearsal dinner. She looked beautiful and happy, ready to celebrate our future together. Before we start dinner, I announced to the room, I want to share something with everyone, a little presentation about Emily and our relationship. I dimmed the lights and started the projector. The first image showed Emily and Brian at a restaurant. The second showed them hiking together. The third captured them outside the Pine Creek Lodge, kissing passionately while Emily wore the Christmas jacket I had bought her. The room fell silent. The video continued with footage of Emily entering Brian's apartment building, staying overnight, leaving the next morning. Receipts from their romantic dinners, photos of them shopping together for what appeared to be couples items. Emily stood frozen in the center of the room, staring at the screen as her secret life played out in front of everyone she loved. The silence stretched for what felt like minutes. Emily's father, Robert, was the first to move. He stood up from his chair, looked at his daughter with a mixture of disappointment and disgust, and walked out of the room without saying a word. Susan followed him, tears streaming down her face. Katie stood next, shaking her head. Emily, how could you? This is not what it looks like, Emily finally managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. It looks like you have been cheating on Jason for weeks, Marcus said, while planning a wedding. One by one, the guests collected their coats and purses and left. Emily's co-workers from Ravenspark Ventures looked mortified. My college friends patted my shoulder supportively as they headed for the door. Emily and I were alone within 10 minutes. Jason, please let me explain. There is nothing to explain. I know about Brian. I know about the cabin. I know you have been living with him while pretending to stay with Katie. Emily collapsed into a chair, finally understanding that her deception was completely exposed. The wedding is canceled, I continued. I have already contacted the vendors. The deposits are forfeit, but I am donating the reception costs to the Denver Youth Shelter. They will put the money to better use. I picked up my jacket and headed for the door. What about us? Emily called after me. There is no us. There has not been an US for months. I left Emily sitting alone in the community room, surrounded by empty chairs and the evidence of her betrayal still glowing on the projection screen. The next morning, I boarded a flight to Rome and began a month-long backpacking trip through Europe. 6 months later, I learned through mutual friends that Emily had faced significant consequences for her actions. The video from our rehearsal dinner had been shared among her social circles and eventually reached her workplace. Ravenspark Ventures, a company that prided itself on integrity and client trust, quietly asked for Emily's resignation after the scandal affected her professional reputation. Her relationship with Brian crumbled within 3 weeks of their exposure. Apparently, being someone's secret was more exciting than being their only option. Emily moved back in with her parents in Fort Collins, struggling to find new employment in marketing where her professional network had been compromised. Her sister Katie, who had unknowingly been used as cover for the deception, cut off contact for several months before eventually agreeing to limited family interactions. Brian, meanwhile, lost the Denver job opportunity Emily had helped arrange for him. When his potential employers learned about his role in breaking up an engagement, they decided he was not the kind of person they wanted representing their company. He remained in Boulder, working part-time at various outdoor gear shops. his dreams of a career advancement derailed by his poor choices. I returned from Europe refreshed and clear-headed. I purchased a small cafe in Lakewood called The Morning Brew, fulfilling a dream I had harbored since college. The business thrived, supported by a community that appreciated authentic coffee and genuine conversation. I never ran into Emily again, though I heard she occasionally drove past the cafe but never stopped in. Sometimes the best revenge is not seeking revenge at all, but simply choosing to build something better than what you left behind.